Welcome to Cursed, a bi-weekly podcast that investigates the liminal spaces, from everyday witchcraft to the haunted and the phantasmic. Hang out with us as we explore our personal experiences with the unknown and celebrate our craft.
This is episode 14.
Yeah.
The Leeds Devil.
The Leeds Devil.
And before we get started, we have our normal thing of patron shout-outs.
Because y'all are so awesome, so we want to definitely make sure that you guys get the credit you deserve.
Yeah.
Because you guys make this shit possible.
Right. Like listeners like you.
I feel like PBS.
I know. So I always read the haints. So let's, because it's on my phone, but you read the haints.
Okay.
In case anybody wants to hear their name in your voice.
Oh, all right. So on the haints level, we have Tori, Tamara, Rachel the Pickety Witch, Corey and Lane of New World Witchery, Alyssa, Joanne, Erin, Melissa D, Cindy Brannon of Keeping Her Keys, Dakota, Chris of Pagan Ironworks, and Starfriend.
And for our poltergeist, we have Temple, Alex, Faith, Melissa S, Heather, Abiel, Jessica, Sydney, and Tiffany. So we actually have got a few more since our last episode.
Yeah.
I think we glamoured them pretty well.
I think we did. And we enticed them with that tarot reading, too.
Right. And then they're going to hear this, and they're going to be like, snap out of it, and they're going to be like, cancel. But no, so, yeah, that's really cool, because, like, for just $1, you get all our bonus stuff, you get our notes.
Mm-hmm.
But then for $5, you get, for less than a pack of cigarettes. That's how I think about it. Or for less than a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
No, you can get a decal, you get your shout-outs, you get access to all the bonus stuff.
Mm-hmm.
$10, you get that personalized tarot reading from Cricket every month.
Mm-hmm.
You also get the shout-outs, the decal. And we do have some stuff that we're working on to maybe add another tier, add some more perks for everybody. Mm-hmm. So the notes are just like the tip.
Just the tip.
We don't have to do sexual innuendos anymore, because this is not... This is the Jersey Devil. This isn't...
Are you kidding me? We're always doing sexual innuendos. And then I think we discussed a couple of episodes ago in one of our bonus episodes about possibly doing a new goal on Patreon.
Oh, yeah. That's...
Yeah.
Sleepover, scary sleepover.
Yeah, so we want to...
Spin the bottle. 6 minutes in hell. Light as a feather.
Stiff as a board.
Pillow fights.
Yes.
The Three
and
Kings
the Three
game.
Kings thing. Yeah.
So don't forget that. So we're excited.
Yes.
And we're trying to get some more merch, because I know people want that. Mm-hmm. And we want you to promote us
everywhere
for free.
Yeah.
No.
Be our walking billboard.
No, I enjoy it because I'm wearing my Pickety Witch shirt. Like, people like things, stuff and things.
Yeah.
So
I like stuff and things.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get some pins and some shirts.
I'm fondling rocks. I'm fondling my rocks right here, right now.
Yeah. Get your rocks off this couch. Okay, so with that being said, what are we talking about today?
So we're gonna talk about something that's near and dear to my heart that I think I've kind of mentioned before, at least in our bonus episodes. We're actually gonna talk about the Jersey Devil.
I think it was our bonus episode where
you
were like, oh, and it felt like we were due for a cryptid.
I think so, yeah. Because we kind of talked about like Grimm's and things like that, but that's, I don't know, that almost becomes,
that's kind of a spirit to me.
Yeah.
And it's a spirit / like creepy cryptid thing, but we did divination and we did love spells, and it's like in between we like to do the cryptids. I mean, it's still going to be witchy because that's where we live.
Yeah.
In the witchy realm. And I mean, the story is kind of like that whole idea of like cursing and all this. So I can't wait to hear. You said you even found some stuff you never knew about. So yeah. I'm super excited about that.
Yeah. So when I was a kid, my dad is actually from New Jersey. He grew up just outside of Philly in a little town called Palmyra. So it's right in between like Camden and Philadelphia. So if y'all are from that area, hey, what's up? But I remember going up there as a kid because I always used to go up there and visit, family, friends. And I remember someone told me the story of the Jersey Devil when I was up there one summer.
Somebody once told me.
So the way that I heard it was that there was this woman known as Mother Leeds, and she ended up getting pregnant by her husband for the 13th time.
As one does.
And I think my notes say it was 1735. That's the number I keep getting over and over again, is 1735. So
the pull-out method was not a thing then.
No. I mean, it's not really all that effective anyway, so.
Well, whatever. I mean, it would cut 13 down probably by half. Maybe. I don't know. Whatever.
Use protection, y'all. Anyway.
We don't need any more devils running around.
No. So, I mean, 1735, we're still under British occupation. We are, and a lot of times the people who were coming here to start in the quote-unquote New World, although it wasn't new, it was just new to them.
It was new to white people.
It was new to white people. So, life was very hard. Winters were long and difficult. There was no birth control, really. I mean...
The only way you could stay warm was fucking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad way to stay warm.
No. But what are we going to do with all these kids?
Yeah. But a lot of times, women had no rights. And that was kind of where Mother Leeds was at this point. Because she, was pregnant again. She was older. And her husband was not a nice man. He was definitely a drunkard. I think she reached the point of exasperation. And she famously said, let this one be the devil, in reference to her unborn child. So Leeds went into labor a few months later, and the way that I heard it, it was like a super dark and stormy night, because of course.
It has to be.
Yeah.
I've heard that too. Because you gotta set the mood.
You got to. And she apparently had forgotten all about this curse that she had laid on her unborn child. So, there's 2 different rooms in the house where they're at. And in one room, we have the midwife, we have possibly some of the female members of the family, and Mother Leeds, who is, in labor. And then in the other room, we have her husband and some other members of the family, especially males, waiting for the birth. So she gives birth to the child. Labor was not super difficult or long. It seemed like pretty standard as far as it went. And the baby was actually born healthy.
Oh.
So, or so they say. The baby was actually born healthy and then changed and shapeshifted after it was...
Oh, fuck. See, yeah. I was thinking this motherfucker came out with that horse head crowning and spread its wings and flew out the chimney. This is what I love about folklore too, is because it's it changes from version to version. I like the version that I heard better.
The baby started to change and metamorphosed right before her very eyes. Within moments, it transformed from a beautiful newborn baby into a hideous creature unlike anything the world had ever seen. The wailing infant began growing at an incredible rate. It sprouted horns from the top of its head, and talon-like claws tore through the tips of its fingers. Leathery bat-like wings unfurled from its back, and hair and feathers sprouted all over the child's body. Its eyes began glowing bright red as they grew larger in the monster's gnarled and snarling face.
Do you know Gremlins 2? When the one takes the bat serum when they're in the laboratory in that building.
Yes.
And its wings, that's what I pictured. The wings unfurling and then it flies out. But
it very much like that. So maybe it's actually a gremlin.
And I never heard the feather part.
And it's funny because it's just, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
So after this, transformation takes place, this shape-shifting, the creature attacked its own mother and killed her.
Well,
yeah. And then tried to kill everyone else that was in the room. From what I understand, succeeded, or got very close to. Busted down to the dorm into the next room. attacked everyone, nearly killing everyone in that room. So, including its own father, brothers, all that. And went up the chimney.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I know
went
that.
up the chimney, and nothing was left of the chimney but, like, a pile of rubble. And just flew off into the night. And since then, it's been seen consistently since, like, the 1800s, like, early...
Right. And it was like, is it like the Pine Barrens is kind of where it's, like, famously hanging out?
So that was... The Pine Barrens is a really interesting place because the energy there is so different. You know, like, when we used to go up there for the summer, we'd actually all go to the beach or the shore, as they call it. Yes, the Jersey Shore.
The Jersey Shore.
And, you know, you actually take Highway 9 through the Pine Barrens and to get to the beach. And it's just really eerie. There's something about it that's just different. And it's actually known as a hardscrabble place to live, even for, you know, colonial America. So nothing grows there. And actually the Lenni Lenape Native American tribes that are from that region called this region of New Jersey, I'm gonna fuck this up, Papwessing, which actually means place of the dragon.
Oh.
Because it was like, shit didn't grow there. You couldn't farm there. It's like pine trees and really strange, like carnivorous plants and orchids and like really strange things.
Like carnivorous orchids, blood orchids.
That would be excellent. That's like some Little Shop of Horrors shit right there.
I know. Well, okay. I want to help me remember. I want to get in to ask you a question, or maybe I can do it now.
Okay.
Are there reports and lore of a devil type critter before her? Because if you're going to call it in the native language, if you're going to call it like what of the dragon, that's not too far from like this idea of a devil type thing.
Yeah.
And so that makes me wonder, it's like, were there reports of this and then people gave it a story? Kind of like...
Yeah. So I had the same thought. And I actually went in and did some research on the Lenape folklore. And there is a spirit in Lenape folklore called Montanto. And he is in Lenape mythology, Montanto is the spirit of death. He was portrayed as destructive, often evil, usually being opposed to Ketanetue, who is like the creator god spirit in their mythology. So Montanto, who is the devil, basically, in theirs, is associated with bats, stinging insects, and poisonous plants, all of which he is said to have created. After the introduction of Christianity, Lenape people frequently identified him with the devil.
Huh. I have chills.
Yeah. So, and it's like, I went through, and there's often mention of, you know, some Native American folklore that sort of talks about this and says that there is a basis for that in it, but nobody actually wants to go in and talk about the folklore and actually do the research. They just say, oh, there is some, and leave it at that. So I wanted to go in and like find it.
Yeah. Why not?
Why not? Why not go that extra step? So I was really like, as soon as they talked about how he was a devil, basically, in their folklore, and is said to have created bats and is closely associated with them. It is closely associated with, you know, these poisonous and stinging and carnivorous plants that he is said to have created that live in that very, like, strange landscape of the Pine Barrens. Like, that's really, really interesting to me.
Yes. Because, you know, those were way before the story of the devil. And what makes me wonder is when white people started coming around, as they do, and they might have been hearing lore, they might have been seeing things, and it's like, it reminds me of the idea of Christianity, like, oh, that's a cool story you got there, bruh. Let's rewrite it. But it's still, it's like, okay, well, this story explains why we're seeing this devil-type creature, but it makes us like, oh, this woman had this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I would have never known that there was there could be a connection prior.
Mm-hmm.
And that the native tribes there, like, had a name for something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so similar to what, like, that's crazy.
Yeah. And it's really interesting because there's lots of references to the Jersey Devil being almost very bat-like or very dragon-like.
Yes, and that's kind of what made me think of the dragon, because it's famously said it has like a horse-type head.
Mm-hmm.
And when you think dragons, you think what we think now, but like there's depictions of dragons with that sea monsters with that horse-like face. Like, that freaks me out.
Yeah.
Horses, I'm putting you on blast. If you heard our bonus where we talk about glowing horses, like, I'm not worried. I'm not talking about you, but horse-headed looking things, like.
Mm-hmm. I think what you're getting at is more of like the chimera type thing,
right? It's
where
like it's
shit
not
just doesn't belong,
right? It's not like, oh, this dragon looks like a lizard or a snake with fangs, and like it looks like a mixture of these things, like the bat wings, the horse head, the horns, and. You think, well, I guess in pop culture and different stuff, Jersey Devil, you think more of like the archetype of the devil. Like, it looks kind of humanish with the horns and stuff. Originally, it seems like all that was like this monster, like, looking thing. Kind of like the teaser I shared in the picture, which is like, we'll put, obviously, those up and stuff. But, and even though it mentions talons, like in the hands, it's famously hooved on the bottom feet.
Yes.
And you sent me that picture with like which we'll post that too, because that's awesome.
So the picture that you're talking about is actually from a newspaper article that I want to talk about soon. But I don't want to go there yet. Because there's so much around it, and there's so many different variations of the myth. Like, I think there's one where there was a young girl whose name was Leeds. That seems to be consistent across the board. So she actually lived in Leeds Point, and Leeds is a name that's very old in New Jersey. So that's like a really old, like, settlers name. Like, that's everywhere. Mm-hmm. Who knows? I may even have some Leeds in my family tree. I haven't looked at it.
Oh man. What if you're like
somehow related?
Right. That
would be weird.
And then they were like the lineage from then on was cursed to be devils. Which would make sense.
I mean,
it would explain a lot.
It would explain a lot. But it says that this girl who lived in Leeds Point fell in love with a British soldier. And this is when we're starting to get that, like, tumultuous, like, uprising sort of thing going on. So the British had actually come to the region because the iron furnaces at the Batstow were supplying privateers. Mm-hmm. So in 1778, the British engaged America in the Battle of Chestnut Neck. And the townsfolk of Leeds Point opposed the match and were really upset with this young girl from their town who was so entangled with this British soldier. And so she gets pregnant with his baby and gives birth to this child that later becomes known as the Leeds Devil. There's another one that says something to the effect of, and this one is a really, really old, like, archetype for a folktale, where they talk about how there is a young woman who passed they want to use the GYP word, gypsy, which is a slur. Mm-hmm. I refuse to use that word.
Just a heads up, if you didn't know, now you know.
Yeah. So, but we'll say, like, someone who lives a transient lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So this woman who lives this transient lifestyle is begging this other woman for food.
We'll call it a Khajiit.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
She's a Khajiit.
So the woman refused to give this Khajiit any food and just told her, basically, go away. So
please, may I have some skooma?
She placed a curse on her. Mm-hmm. And years later, in 1850, with the curse forgotten, the girl gave birth to her first child, a male, and he became the devil and fled into the woods.
So
But the most famous version is the Mother Leeds story.
Yeah.
Because I keep seeing that over and over again, and it's like that 1735 date is repeated again and again and again, and I'm like, what the hell is going on?
Right.
You know? And it's funny because it's like the more research I did, the more there was like, the more convoluted and like different versions of things there were, because it's like the region was settled by a lot of Quakers early on, and there was actually a man whose name was Daniel Leeds, who had a wife who had a lot of children, and he actually became ostracized by the Quaker community when he published a series of almanacs containing astrological symbols and writings in 1687. So Leeds' fellow Quakers deemed the astrology in these almanacs as too pagan or blasphemous, because of course they did.
Right.
And they were censored and outlawed. And so instead of giving up, he actually continued to publish even more esoteric and astrological Christian writings, and became increasingly fascinated with Christian occultism, Christian mysticism, cosmology, demonology, angelology, and natural magic. So he was actually labeled a heretic, which is a huge fucking deal.
Right. And I can see why.
Yeah, because that's all kinds of nope. But he actually, was publishing all this stuff, and he actually got into a huge feud with Benjamin Franklin, because Benjamin Franklin was also publishing these, like almanacs and pamphlets and things like that, and Leeds was his biggest competition.
Right.
So there are people who claim that Franklin actually created the myth of the Leeds Devil as a political animal whose goal was to defame his competition, since both Leeds and Franklin printed pamphlets, its origins being part of the growing anti-British pro-independence movement. And then by the middle of the 19th century, people had started to come to think of it less as like a defamed like political statement, and more as an actual folkloric creature that existed. Yeah. So it's like there's so many different versions of this, and I don't know which one I lead more towards. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like that makes a lot of sense, but it's almost, and it's funny because Leeds actually had a family crest that was printed up at the top of his newspaper, and it actually had a dragon on it with like bat-like wings. Yeah.
So, okay, but what's weird is like that's so like all of these things that, okay, if you talk about the native lore, you talk about the stories we've heard, you talk about this has such a like okay, it makes sense because that feud and competition, and then like the little picture, and then it's like, but it still leads, it's still connected to a dragon type thing, and then, which this is getting into the whole realm of tulpas. Is that what you call them? The little food you eat? No, that's tapas. I think it's tulpas, which are like, if there's enough energy given to a thought form and a shared experience, that becomes real.
Okay,
but like, okay, at the time it probably wouldn't be as, it's just a weird thing that these are like, I'm sure there's a bunch of like bullshit sightings, but like, or people being freaked out, but there are sightings and there are all these things. So it's a very hard thing to,
yeah, even today there are still people who have seen it. And I mean, you go on and you look at, when I was doing research, I found a lot of things that were posted publicly. And because it's connected with, Facebook or whatever, actual people are able to go and comment their own stories and talk about how I was on Highway 9, I live off of Highway 9, and I was going out to my mailbox to go get, my mail, and all of a sudden this winged thing came flying out of nowhere.
I love how you went into like a southern accent for a sec.
I mean,
it's like, because it's just what we're used to.
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense for that smear campaign idea, because back in the day, pamphlets like that was.
But what if that there was something that was being cited there, because there was that tie to Native American folklore, there is this spirit that's already there,
right?
And it just sort of got blamed and pushed on Leeds as a way to...
Because to me, it's like...
Because we know that Ben Franklin had a lot of ties to the occult.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean, that's pretty prevalent up there anyway. I mean, I have how many generations of Freemasons that are on that side of the family that go way back? And we know Franklin was a Mason. So...
Right. Well, see, that's the thing is like, okay, how would you... If it was just a smear campaign way back when over pamphlets, like, why are people still talking about it today? Like, it might have been like a thing, like gossip and shit, but it just, it seems like that kind of adds to some of it, but like there's something else bigger there.
I almost wonder if, it really did become, it come from this smear campaign, and because it got so publicized and because so many people started talking about it, it almost invoked something.
Possibly.
Like,
oh, okay, y'all want this shit? You're probably wondering why I'm like working on my phone and pulling up stuff. I wanted to see how many downloads we had from when we started from New Jersey.
Okay.
We have 152.
Woo!
I'm sure we could get more. But if anybody out there like has your story, this is just a side note because we want to hear about it. And if you know something that you don't hear in this, and then like anything with Leeds, if you're related to cricket, or the Devils or Benjamin Franklin, just talk to us.
Yeah.
But I just was curious, like how many people from New Jersey actually listen? Because like the joke was South Dakota was our last holdout, and we finally got a download, one single download from South Dakota. So if there's ever a cryptid in South Dakota, like we're kind of, we don't have help.
Well, is that Wendigo territory, or is that too far out?
No, because like Wendigo, like that's near Minnesota, and Minnesota is up there. I think like it's kind of that northern, like Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota is what I think. I could be wrong.
And not only that, but we have reports of like Sasquatch type creatures all over the globe.
Oh, we're gonna have at least a 50-part Bigfoot series.
Oh, at least.
Of Bigfoots in every state. And then we're going to go international Bigfoots. So
yes, please.
But Jersey Devil seems to be located in Jersey.
Well, Jersey and Delaware, Philadelphia, maybe a little bit of Maryland, but that sort of area.
He gets around.
I mean, he flies. Right. So there's some migration happening there.
Right. Do you want to stay in the Pine Barrens your whole life?
No.
Or do you want to get out and see the sights? And you saw it. I mean, you saw him in North Carolina. No. You'll have to go listen to the bonus. Go sign up, be a patron. And
it's only $1.
You can hear about crickets, Mothman / Jersey Devil /
weird pterodactyl, maybe. Right. Who knows? And that's another thing too, is that a lot of people have said, what if it's actually like a holdout, like an evolutionary holdout, and it's actually like a pterodactyl? Because think of the way the pterodactyl,
the horse type head,
and
and
claws on the feet,
Jurassic World, like the first one that came out with Chris Pratt and those little critters that were flying around picking up people off the streets.
Velociraptors, yes.
Yeah. Well, they had their faces were horse-like.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was based off anything actually other than, Hollywood, but it's interesting because like, fuck, what if it is, And how about we were driving back from our trip to Asheville, and Tamara's driving, and she was like, we're talking about something, and she was like, did I ever tell y'all about when I was 3, I saw this pterodactyl thing? It's like, what? We were talking about seeing a Bigfoot, and she was like, did I ever tell you that? And it's like, you've known us how long?
And we both went silent, and Tamara, shout out Tamara, she's a patron. So, bitch, you heard the story.
Right.
Why the fuck have you only just now mentioned this?
Right. And we're like...
Like, shared experience, come on.
Right. And know we get hard for... She's like, well, I just thought, it's a pterodactyl. And, so it's just like, okay. And she's like, oh, my cousin. It was like her cousin or somebody, right? It was a little bit older. And she was like, she saw it and we just pretended that it didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wait, how are we just hearing about this now? But we're glad that you did. And if you recall any other stories, like, that you've seen things.
Yeah, please let us know. Soon.
Yeah. Get it all out there.
Yeah.
And then, like, if any of our listeners have not just Jersey Devil ones, but like those similar creatures, because we're trying to like connect dots here.
Yeah.
Like, not since the days of Unsolved Mysteries has anybody tried to do more in understanding where these things. I don't know, fucking hell. But no, it's interesting because there's more to just the lore that's popularized. And if we were like a big production podcast, we could have like really cool music right now, and we would be telling you all these stories. But like, we're trying to explore this shit. You've got 7 pages of notes.
Oh, at least.
And it's like, this is so cool because I'm like, I've already learned way more than I ever thought I knew about. Forget everything you knew about the Jersey Devil. Mm-hmm. Done.
So I want to talk about some of the other related entities that come with it, because the devil doesn't always appear by himself.
He's got a crew. He's got
a crew. So he's often said to appear with the headless ghost of the pirate Captain Kidd.
Because why not?
So the legend on Captain Kidd differs. I've heard that his body, or at least his head, is buried in Barnegat Bay in New Jersey. I've also heard that he has like buried treasure out there. So his spirit is out there like protecting his wares and things that he, his ill-gotten.
Like, I've heard of Captain Kidd.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he hung out with the Jersey Devil.
I know, and that's kind of what I heard too, because I'd always heard
all
about
these pictures
Captain
of
Kidd.
him. All these pictures of him. He has a head.
So he was actually he died by decapitation because he was caught.
Maybe it's a different Captain Kidd.
I think, or is it Captain Kidd where it's like they hung him and then they cut off his head and put his head on like a pike out on the bay?
Well, this says the grisly fate of him.
Okay.
And he's not just hanged. He's in like this metal head contraption, like that's chained him to this post, and he looks like he got fucked up. So
yeah, they were not kind to pirates, which is a shame because I'm really into
what did
pirates.
they ever do to anybody?
I'm really into pirates because it's just like I think I'm a total anarchist at heart, and so I really love that like idea of escaping and being your own boss.
Look
at
me.
Time where
I'm the captain now. But no, North Carolina is like a cool place too because like we always talk about Western North Carolina, but we'll get into all the Eastern stuff. There's so much lore, pirates, fucking
witch
like,
trees.
Yes,
shout out
to Yo Greenie, our listener, because she lives out there. Can't wait to go check out that witch tree and all of this, and it's like
and even the Great Dismal Swamp and stuff too. I mean,
that's kind of up there. And then
that's such a weird area.
What do they call it? They call it like the graveyard. I mean, the Outer Banks is like the
graveyard of the Atlantic.
Yes. Because fuck,
thousands of ships. Yeah.
So
thousands.
I mean, wait for it.
We'll get there.
We'll set sail eventually.
Yes. Fuck yes, that was good.
Yeah. Yeah, I try. I do what I can.
But yeah, during the 17th and 18th centuries, some locals told stories of the ghost of a headless Captain Kidd walking along the beach with the Jersey Devil, which is really interesting. I'd never heard that before, because I'd always heard of them separately.
I like long walks on the beach with my Jersey Devil.
Oh, they met up on the, like, occult 18th century version of, like, Tinder and went on a date.
But it was like a literal message board in wood where you, like, put it out in the town post and it's like, oh, okay.
Croatan scribbled into that.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's like, missed connections. You had these leathery bat wings and sharp claws and piercing eyes. I didn't have a head. We passed in the market. I mean, I love it.
I love it. So I'm trying to decide if I want to do this one next or if I want to save it. I think I want to save it because you're gonna flip. All right. So we also have the golden-haired girl. Sorry, we're passing the one you really want to hear. I'm sorry. So the golden-haired girl is a ghost that was said to stare out at sea dressed in white, mourning the loss of her lover at sea. Pineys being people who live in the Pine Barrens. Pineys would often tell stories of the Jersey Devil sitting alongside her, accompanying her vigil.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. Another legend says that the Jersey Devil had a son, who was strangely human, who fell in love with a rich girl. Her family did not agree with her loving the Jersey Devil's son, obviously. Rude.
Right.
So they took her away and she killed herself upon reaching the destination. Heartbroken, he became the next generation. She became the next generation. Now her ghost follows the Jersey Devil.
The Jersey Devil, the next generation.
I mean...
That's so fucking weird. That's so weird. Like, oh, it's like... Now it's like the real House Devils of New Jersey.
I mean, he's got a posse. He's been around for a long-ass time. You know?
Right, he's gonna get lonely.
Yeah. So there's also the Black Doctor, who is said to be the ghost of an African-American man known as James Still, who actually learned to practice medicine back in the 19th century, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But he was not allowed to practice because people were stupid. So undiscouraged, James went into seclusion in the Pine Barrens to study medicine from his textbooks. And he also learned herbal remedies from the local Native American tribes. So I don't think I mentioned this before, but the Pine Barrens is a really interesting place too, because because nothing grew well there, it actually ended up being like the refuge of a lot of outcasts. So people who were Black, people who were poor, people who were Native American, people who were...
Devils.
Whatever. You know?
Ghosts.
So that's
pirates.
where they ended up being, was in the Pine Barrens.
I mean, it sounds like a good time.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, I'll go hang out in
Hell
the Pine
yeah.
Barrens. I want to go.
We'll do it.
We'll camp.
We don't even have to camp.
Your face was like, let's just drive through it. Okay? I know we don't have to camp, but like, how are we going to have weird shit happen to us?
And it's so funny, because there's another local legend that I want to talk about and actually go investigate too, called Devil's Tramping Ground. And if y'all are familiar with North Carolina folklore, it's like there's so many different pieces of this that sort of fall into place and sound very similar. So, I don't know. I'm very interested.
Yeah, because we want to make a trip. We've got our patron goals, and I think we said like we get to 50, we're doing like a scary movie night.
Mm-hmm.
We get to 100 is our sleepover.
Yes.
We were like, oh, if we get to 666 patrons, we'll go spend the night at the Devil's Tramping Ground.
Yeah.
However, I mean, it's up to you guys if we do that, so that's a lot.
I don't want to wait a long time, so I want y'all to like.
So you guys gotta like give us money.
I'm still really I'm really excited about the thought of us both doing the Three Kings experiment simultaneously.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, we need a lot of mirrors.
A lot of mirrors. We can do that.
Yeah, we got mirrors.
And
yeah, we'll have fun. We've got Ouija boards.
Mm-hmm.
Snacks.
All kinds
alcohol.
of snacks. Oh, all the alcohol.
Yeah.
So there's two more spirits that he regularly comes in contact with. But, I forgot to say, so the Black Doctor is said to come to the aid of the injured or stranded travelers who, like, so if you break down on, our favorite road, Route 9, in the Pine Barrens or, somewhere in there, or if you get hurt, it's said that the ghost of this doctor who was unjustly killed will actually come to your aid even still, even though he was killed unjustly. These
Pine Barren ghosts and stuff, like, are really nice.
I know,
They sound really helpful.
I know. Even the Jersey Devil, it's like, he's mad because everybody was mean to him, There's also the White Stag, who is almost like has a Mothman vibe about him, where he's like said to, and so does the Jersey Devil, actually.
Like an omen.
Yeah, where he's said to like foreshadow like really bad events and things like that. So when you start seeing like sightings of all these different things, like shit's about to happen, and they're like trying to warn you. Our last one, which I know you're going to be super excited about, and actually goes back to our last cryptid, is Black Dog. So there is actually a black dog who is actually considered to be very benevolent, who often appears with the Jersey Devil. Okay,
so we mentioned Yo Greenie, and she was like the first one to send us fan mail.
Yes.
And then talking about black dogs, like our friend Brett Manning. We've got you've got two of her candles burning.
Right now. Yep.
Horned God and Cursed, which is so fitting.
Yeah.
And they smell great, but like she's all about that dog lore, the black dog.
And well, you've seen her beautiful pupper too, right?
Yes.
Oh my god.
So I mean, shout out to both of you guys, and then
Yes.
we like getting stuff
In the mail.
gifts.
Yeah.
And yeah, we don't ever turn it down.
No.
Right?
Never.
But yeah, we appreciate you guys. So
yeah.
And I know I've talked with Brett a few times about all these weird fucking synchronicities with Hellier and goblins and fucking fairies and aliens and phalians and black dogs. So it's just like, okay, well, of course there's
the
Jersey Devil has a black dog.
Right? Like, I read that and I just had a moment where I'm just like, oh shit, it's happening again.
And couldn't you go as far to say that the Jersey Devil is also representative of a horned deity? I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going the route of
I mean, you could though.
Cursed Podcast says
it
yes.
said that
I've been watching a lot of Ancient Aliens.
I mean,
and Curse of Oak Island, and it's the same guy. And
oh my god, I fucking love Curse of Oak Island.
Yes. One more dig. But yeah, we'll find the Jersey Devil first. But but like now
Speaking
that guy's
of pirates who have laid all kinds of fucking traps and
right.
shit, you know, like hell yeah.
Could it be that the Knights Templar cut off the head of Captain Kidd and the Jersey Devil felt bad about it and blah, blah, blah? Maybe. We can speculate anything we want.
You want to talk about sightings?
Fuck yes.
Okay, cool. So, like I said, there's been sightings since the legend became super prevalent. So, there's actually a recorded sighting of Commodore Stephen Decatur, who was a naval commander who was testing cannons at the Hanover Ironworks. And he actually saw the Jersey Devil while he was testing these cannons and said, well, fuck, I got a cannon right here. So he pointed the cannon at the Jersey Devil and shot the Jersey Devil. And he said that there was a hole in the actual creature, but it kept flying like nothing even happened.
Oh, God. That's crazy. So you shot the Jersey Devil with a cannon.
Yeah. Or maybe he just said he did, but...
Well, yeah, he probably did. I'm not doubting that he saw the Jersey Devil. I'm doubting that he was that good of a shot with a cannon.
There was also one in winter of 1813. Joseph Bonaparte, brother of Napoleon Bonaparte, noticed tracks in this fresh snow that were very strange. They were like hooved like a donkey, except it looked like the creature was walking with 2 legs instead of 4.
Yes.
So more animals walking upright.
Oh. Help.
So he grabbed his gun and decided to go looking for this unknown animal. As he followed the tracks, they abruptly stopped, as if the creature vanished or flew. So Bonaparte actually looked up just in time to see the creature let out a hideous, like, screeching and hissing sound. It had huge eyes, its wings were massive, and it had claws like a bird. It swooped down on him and he ducked, falling backwards in the snow as the large creature flew away. Stunned, Bonaparte tried to relay the story to his friends. Since they also believed in local legends, they were all convinced he saw the Jersey Devil. So he didn't even know what he had seen, had a party, and told all of his friends about it, and they're like, oh yeah, that's the Jersey Devil.
Oh, yeah.
That's a thing.
Dude, that's... Yeah. Well, how big was he? Was he the same size as Napoleon? Was he little? Because it could have just been like a large bird of prey that was going to pick him up like a little animal.
Maybe? I don't know.
No, but...
but there's a lot of people who try to discount the myth of the Jersey Devil as saying, like, there's a special, like, type of, like, crane or something that's in that area.
Right.
That they say, oh, it's just, that's what you saw. You know?
So, okay, I've seen, especially, like, the waterfowl around here. Like, there's a lot of, like, the herrings and stuff like that. And when they fly, they're large. And they hold their feet in a way that looks like a pterodactyl tail. But... they're not... but they're not that... They're big, but they're not that big. And I'm not saying that this is related to the crane thing, but, like...
birds are basically just evolved dinosaurs anyway. They're fucking... Yeah.
Of course. And so, like...
I think that's part of why I'm so fucking scared of them. I don't do birds, y'all. I'm sorry.
I don't trust birds. Have you ever looked in one in the eyes?
Dude, I was attacked. I don't want to hear it.
But, there's all these things that, like, owls at night. So, yeah, there's probably people that see this shit and mistake it because they were so scared.
Right.
Like, the people, like, with Mothman that said, like, they might have seen, like, a large owl. That's fair. You can't use that for every single thing. Because some of these sightings are like, okay, you might have seen it. And the Thunderbird thing, where perspective is off and it's like, this thing was large. But when people talk about it coming down and picking up a kid and dropping them, like, that wasn't a fucking hawk. But whatever, we'll get into all that shit. And I also want to get into an episode one day of all the devil lore. Like this, and like, I think it was England, there was a famous story of, like, a blizzard, and then the next day, like, across miles in different towns were supposedly this set of hoof prints. And then it would, like, cross people's roofs, and, like, all these different things, and, like, people followed this.
You have no idea, but you actually just segued into the best sighting of the Jersey Devil.
Fuck yeah.
Perfectly.
All right.
Okay. So, January 16th through the 23rd in 1909. So, early in the week, reports start emerging from across the Delaware Valley. So, this is, again, southern New Jersey type area. Strange tracks were being found in the snow, over and under fences, through fields and backyards, and across rooftops of houses.
Maybe that's weird. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Maybe.
But I feel like there's one in England too.
Yeah?
I mean, like the hoof prints.
Now I want to know if they're related.
Well, see, it makes me think of the footprints in the sand. I looked back and there was only one set of hoof prints. And the devil had carried me at my hardest times or something. Sweet. But he's nice. He sounds nice.
Yeah. It got really interesting for me when I was actually doing research for this, because there were reported sightings in the large cities of Camden and Philadelphia, right in between where my dad's family is from. So that's really fucking interesting. And I know that I don't know how many times great-grandfather was actually, like, the first mayor of Palmyra. So, and that was only, like, 10 years later. So I know he was in the area at the time.
Yeah.
So everybody, like, freaks the fuck out, because Palmyra and Camden are pretty huge cities.
Right.
Especially back then. So they actually formed, like, little, like, posses, almost like hunting parties, to go out and, like, try to find it. And they actually
which is classic, like, fucking, like, back in the day shit.
Torches and pitchforks.
Right, yeah. It's just like, oh my god, like, let's find this Jersey Devil once and for all.
So they actually had bloodhounds that refused to follow the scent. Like, they're like, I'm not even gonna fuck with that.
No.
Yeah. So this panic actually got so bad that schools closed or suffered low attendance throughout Lower Jersey and Philadelphia.
How come that shit didn't happen when I was a kid? Like, oh, you know what? We're going to close the school today because there's a beast
on the loose. And then mills in the Pine Barrens were actually forced to close when workers refused to leave their homes and travel through the woods to get to their jobs.
See, now, and I've heard that there was, like, this mass hysteria, but
yeah,
I guess you think, okay, well, it was, like, right after this thing bust through the chimney after being born, everybody was, like, afraid of it. But yeah,
but this is like that. If we're going by that myth, that was 1735. This is 1909.
Right.
That's a big time difference.
But that's what I'm saying is, like, you would think, okay, well, that stuff would be closer together, but I mean, you're talking about that big gap, and these people are like, oh fuck, they're not going to work. That shit would not fly today. They're not going to school. They're, like, staying inside.
There were people over 100 people, 30 different reports. The numbers vary a little bit. It was like, I got 30 reports from one place and over 100 people in another place. But there were so many different sightings in a 1 week period. And they actually saw him sailing across the Delaware River. So he actually went into Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware, not just New Jersey. So that's 4 states.
But this reminds me of Mothman. Like, there was that heightened, like, all these reports. And then it's like, it died down.
Yeah.
And it's like, what caused that? What caused it?
Yeah. And see, that's when I almost, it's like, what the hell was going on?
it's one of those things where it's hard. Okay, you see a light in the sky, and it could be a UFO or some shit like this, and like 3 people call and report it in the neighborhood. But then when you get these ones where it's like people in multiple states around the same time of the trajectory of this thing called in and reported it, how do you ignore that? And that's what's weird is like...
I mean, if it actually is a cryptid, as we think of like, you know, like an unidentified like zoological thing, you know, like is it able to like reproduce? You know, are we seeing so many of them because there are multiple? You know, like,
yeah,
I don't know. And it's like, or is it just like an entity that had an increased period of activity for whatever reason?
Well, see, like, this is what makes me wonder if it, like, if you go back to the native lore, that was more of like a spirit, right? As opposed to like a physical...
Mutanto.
They thought more of it as like a spirit.
Yeah. So he
entity.
was, yeah, and he was actually considered, like, their mythology was very almost like God and devil polarity type thing, and it made them translate into Christianity really easy. So
right.
it became it's like
murky. That's what makes me wonder too, like with the whole, which we'll get into again, but like all these ideas that Bigfoot may be interdimensional, blah blah blah, all this and that. They're attributing this to being like a flesh and blood cryptid that lives and dies and ages and reproduces. But what if it's a spirit or this like demon, whatever you want to call it, that's always been in that area,
right? And
like Mothman, it's similar to an omen. Something was going on at that time period, and it was out and about.
Wouldn't that have been just before the start of World War I? 1914. So 5 years later.
I mean, that's close enough. That's
pretty close. So, actually, March 25th, Austria-Hungary has amassed troops for an invasion of Serbia. Russia has a defense treaty with Serbia. Germany wants Russia to convince Serbia to withdraw its objections to Austria-Hungary's annexation of Bosnia, and Russia's Tsar Nicholas doesn't want war and complies. Like, we're starting to see, like, the first, like, world axis powers, like,
shifting,
starting to shift,
shit's starting to go down, and it's like the same thing with Mothman. Like, does this unrest cause like these fucking stirrings and
maybe
like the old gods of New Jersey?
Yeah.
Which I guess the Appalachia doesn't go quite into Jersey.
No, well, it's not too far. That'd be more like Pennsylvania, but it's not far off. That would be like the
Well, I'm just.
But there's the Appalachia goes all the way up through Maine.
Oh yeah, I was just joking about like the podcast Old Gods of Appalachia, yeah. But like it's like something stirring and like big world events that like draw that energy. So it's something too where it's like obviously the spirit's been there, but what was it doing in that little span of time, being so active?
I know. Did it stop something in that area from happening?
Did it cause
something?
I don't know. Because everybody likes to question the same thing about Mothman. Did he cause it? Did he warn about it? Mm-hmm. Then you get into the Men in Black and like, oh god, there's going to be so much Mothman shit coming. But
there's a definite like Mothman feel and vibe to this now.
Right.
And I mean, there's even, one of the things that I found when I was going through...
I hope they're friends. I hope they hang out.
I hope so. I hope they like have each other over for dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just like chill. They're like, hey, you want to hang out? Let's have some beer.
Right.
Let's have some blood of the innocent,
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things that I found over and over again was that a lot of locals in the area, in the Pine Barrens, they talk about how there are so many occultists who do like rituals and stuff like that in the woods too. So
I wonder if it's like a constant like energy,
maybe,
or like working with the spirit. Because like, I mean, at its core, if you look at the Jersey Devil and you say he's a local spirit, yeah, you're getting it not just in Jersey, but you're not getting a report of a Jersey Devil in California. Mm-hmm. You're not getting a report in...
But maybe it's related to the thing that was in Britain.
But I mean, we know there's all kinds of horned...
That have cloven feet that walk upright on two legs with bat-like wings. Yeah. Yeah.
Deer do it. But so that's something to look into. We'll do that in the meantime and see if I'm misremembering that story happen in England, it's this other shit too of like, okay, well, even though that's the case, when we just talked about demon dogs and black dogs, like, we didn't even, there was so many in England and like all of that. So it's like, these aren't necessarily the same thing. However,
but even when we look at like the traveling of folklore and stuff like that, even here in Appalachia, we talk about how, you know, a lot of the same myths and practices that came over from, you know, the cultures that settled there, mainly the Germanic, Scotch, Irish, that sort of area, all of their folklore and their creatures and cryptids sort of came with them.
Yeah.
You know? So...
But I mean, then it sounds... Because, like, it could just be similar, like, okay, they're specific entities on their own, but they're like... I don't even like to do the archetype idea. Like, okay, so the Jersey Devil maybe has... It's specific to that area, but then that doesn't mean that there's not other similar cryptids, spirits, creatures in other regions that are attributed to the same thing, like crossover, you know, so it's something we'll look into and see.
And I mean, it's really fucking prevalent up there too, because it's like everywhere you go.
There's a goddamn hockey team fucking called the Jersey. There was a game we used to play on PlayStation called the Jersey Devil, which is not even...
Yep, there's a game. It's actually one of the first like Monsters of the Week on that X-Files.
Ooh, yeah.
So, you know, it's super prevalent. And even when you're up there too, it's just kind of like when you go to the Pacific Northwest or you go up here to the mountains and there's like Bigfoot everywhere. It's kind of like that up in New Jersey, especially in the Pine Barrens.
Right.
And people really, it's like out there and it's almost like celebrated in a way, like this is our thing, but people don't talk about it.
Well,
unless it's to like scare kids.
Well, I think it's like, it's similar to, and I know we keep saying Mothman, but Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, what's his name? Lake Champlain, what's his name? Champy, something. But it's one of those things where it's like people are serious about sightings and lore and have a fear, but it's also celebrated as part of the culture. Yeah. And it's like, that's why you can find all, it's like when you go out to like Area 51, Roswell, and all the alien stuff, it's like, people take it serious, but then it's also like, it's part of the culture. And so I'm sure, you know, let's buy a bunch of Jersey Devil fun stuff. But it doesn't mean that it's like, oh, we're not going to think about this motherfucker coming out when we drive through the Pine Barrens. Like, it's still a very real thing. So I think that's like really cool. And I definitely want to go up there because like growing up, like I
mean, I've got people we could stay with.
Yeah, the Jersey Devil.
They will make fun of your accent a little bit, but they're good people.
They're good.
So, they're good people.
We'll stay in the Pine Barrens.
All right.
I got a guy. I know somebody. No, but like as a kid, you know, you grow up.
We'll go to the shore
and
drink some water.
There's a lot more with like the internet and things like that now, but back in the day, it's like your heavy hitters were like, you heard about the Jersey Devil, and I would soak up all of it, whether it was X-Files, Unsolved Mysteries, whatever random show might be talking about lores and legends, and it's like, it has always been one of my favorites. And I think there's a lot of people that grew up the same way we did. I mean, you're a little bit closer to it, so it makes sense for you, but I mean, it got around. He got around, and like other people heard about it. So growing up, it was Mothman, Jersey Devil, Bigfoot, Loch Ness.
And see, that's such a weird thing for me, too, because it's like, because I have such a connection to New Jersey, because my dad is from there, I dated a guy who actually moved down from there. He was from North Jersey, though, so that's a different thing.
Did he have wings?
He did not. No. Damn. But, you know, when he would go up there to visit his family and stuff like that, he would bring me, you know, Stewart's Key Lime Soda and, you know, Weird New Jersey magazines, which is a fantastic publication and actually used quite a bit for my research here. So, like, awesome stuff, but it's like, I never thought of it being that prevalent to everyone else.
Because it was local.
Yeah, because
like,
I had such a strong tie to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's awesome to hear you say that it's like, yeah, that's one of the big, you know, 5, and it's like, really?
Growing up, like, I've always had a fascination with this shit, and I want to believe the truth is out there. But no, like, I've always wanted to, like, go looking for this shit. And it's like, yeah, the podcast has a lot of, a way for an outlet for us to be witchy and talk about the stuff and our experiences and share. It's the stuff we talk about too, is cryptids and how they're connected to the spirit realm. And this day with everything going on and like the fucking synchronicity shit that we keep having, like it all feels tied in, but it's like, it's a dream to like go out and do this shit. Like we went to Asheville, we saw that bridge. That was cool. And it's like that same day we went, and on the way back we went to a graveyard, which we'll go back to, which was a whole different feeling.
Yes.
But it's like, it's just, I mean, if you would have told my little 8-year-old self watching fucking Unsolved Mysteries or whatever, that you would actually be doing like some of this stuff, it's like, but why not? Why not? Why not go to the goddamn Pine Barrens and hang out?
Honestly, I would.
Oh yeah, PTO
I would
money,
totally pull a fucking Dana and like be like, all right, this is a horn god archetype. Let's do a fucking ritual and give offerings in the woods. Like,
right.
Aside from killing to eat, chickens and sheep and things like that, there's not really many accounts of him like attacking people, except for the people that he supposedly attacked when he was born, if you believe that version of the myth.
Yeah, in that myth he slaughtered his whole family, but
but it's also, look at the way that he was treated.
No, I know, but
so I don't know.
You have to look at it as an overall. If we go up there and we're trying to connect with this, I would look at it in the almost like the cryptid / spirit form of the lore and working with it in that idea. What they did with Hellier and talked about, like, well, we felt drawn to this, like, that's how we tie our witchcraft into cryptids. Now, I don't think we're going to go out with a chupacabra and we can offer it goat blood, I guess, but...
I mean, yeah.
But the Jersey Devil feels different than a chupacabra, which we'll do, because that's changed so much from when I was a kid. It was this creepy looking thing, and now it's like, oh, it could be a coyote with mange, and, like, that's... The chupacabra was never a dog, but I think wild dogs get attributed a lot to like the mutilations and the killings, but regardless,
but I still think that there's something else out there that is chupacabra that's not wild dog.
For fucking sure.
We'll
talk about that because when I was in school, the Spanish teacher was from Puerto Rico, and like that was
so they
and nobody knew about it. And one day we were talking about something in class, and this was a Christian school, so there was no actual learning, but we were talking about something, and I said like the chupacabra, and she fucking looked at me, and they're like, what? And she was like, how do you know about the chupacabra? And like me and her had this full on conversation about how there's like animal testing and all the lore, and everybody in the class was like, what the fuck is he talking about? And now if you said chupacabra, everybody fucking knows.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, it was in a freaking Scooby-Doo movie, for Christ's sakes.
Well, so I mean. But back then it was like this reptile, red-eyed, like clawed monster, and now it's like
almost very demon, devil, dragon-like, Like...
So I mean, we're getting in all of this shit because why could it not be spirits and interdimensional beings? And the chupacabra was like fucking thought to be an alien, like back then. Like, oh, did an alien come down or whatever?
But that's a different episode.
Oh, yeah. Aliens are so fucking different. But,
Chupacabra's a different fucking episode.
Yeah, but no, I think it's different because, like, the Jersey Devil has, like, such a long history that dates back so far where it's in
especially for us in America.
Yeah, which, to me, it harkens back to those ideas of Bigfoot and all the other things that have been, like, there's the more recent ones. It goes back so far, and it's integrated into like native lore, like Bigfoot is, and all these other things. Like, so those feel different to me. Like you could connect with them on that spiritual / level because, like, if you think this is an animal that reproduces, okay, you might see other ones, but if it's more of a spiritual, interdimensional thing, like that might not age. That wouldn't be a body. There wouldn't be. You
can't hit with a cannonball.
Yeah. Yeah. I call bullshit.
Yeah.
That seems like good aim for a cannon. I feel like cannons are just kind of like point and shoot and hope it hit the side of a ship. But like, I pegged the Jersey Devil from fucking... He watched me load the cannonball up, light the fucking thing, and didn't get out of the way. But then he flew off with a hole in him. Now we're getting totally off topic.
I like the idea of him being like having a hole in him and being totally unfazed. Like,
right.
Is that all you got, mortal?
Yeah.
Like, let's go.
But no, we should go up there at some point.
Okay.
There's so many places we need to go. So
become a backer on Patreon so we can take all the trips and do all the investigations.
Yeah, help us help you have good content.
Yeah, there you go.
Speaking of Patreon, what could we talk about over there for next Friday in between episodes for those people?
Should we talk about our experience up at Helen's Bridge and the cemetery?
Well, yeah, I mean, we just took that trip and it was like, we posted pictures up on Instagram. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we could definitely talk about it.
I think we should talk about that.
And because, I mean, it's something we're also planning on going back to. So until the next episode, goodbye, you guys, and thanks for listening.
Bye.
Bye.
Cursed is a bi-weekly podcast produced by Bones McWilliams and Cricket Word. Editing by Bones McWilliams. The theme for Cursed is Voice of the Trees by Sun and Moon Dance. Check them out on Spotify, YouTube, or at sunandmoondance.bandcamp.com. Follow Cursed on Instagram, Twitter, and become a patron at patreon.com/cursedcast.
Oh God, I'm stuck. My ring got caught in my...
Please keep the oh God, I'm stuck.
I'm gonna, in my Pickety Witch shirt.
No, don't pick your Pickety Witch shirt.
No, I mean, it got stuck in my...
in the sleeve, okay.
Yeah. And, I
thought
just
it was
got
like,
this shirt.
Yeah.
No, I'm not picking at it, yeah.
I thought your ring was picking it.
Oh, no.
Material, yeah.
Yeah.